Hey everyone, this is Daniel Park. Alright, we'll be sketching organic forms today. Um, so I'm excited to get started and kind of review some basics of setting up our sketch here. Alright, so first off, I kind of did some image searching for what I wanted to actually sketch, and today I wanted to focus on sea creatures. Okay, so most importantly, when we're kind of getting ready to sketch or draw anything, I like to choose the most appropriate pictures and angles of what I'm going to actually draw. And also I like to think about what kind of textures I'll be running into and try to warm up with that. Okay, so alright. So first off, I think I'll be drawing two seahorses together. Okay, and I'm looking at the texture, and what I want to do is I want to kind of mimic some of these textures that I might be sketching. Okay, some circular kind of patterns here. Maybe I want to align some of these patterns. Okay. Trying to keep it as loose as possible. There. Okay. I think I'll also be doing a lot of hatching today. So, alright. It's a good idea to kind of practice your pen strokes. Okay. Stippling is also a good one as well. In selected areas. Okay, so we have dots. We got hatching. Okay. We got circles. What else do I see here? I think I see some wrinkles as well. Pretty interesting here. So what I'm actually what's going through my mind is to kind of connect my hand with the textures that I see on the creature. You'll see with dynamic sketching, after we kind of lay in our basic geometry or the form, we're going to fill it up with describing the animal's features such as eyes, tail, or whatever that may be, and also the texture that's on the animal's body. Okay. So, step one, what I like to do is I kind of like to figure out the gesture of the animal. Okay. Alright, there's one. There's another one. Okay. And then I'd like to figure out, using contour lines, what the actual kind of perspective is. Okay, so this seahorse is facing the back, and they're both kind of facing away from us. Alright. Okay. So, after that, it's pretty basic, really. I just go in there and I kind of fill in the details. Alright, features such as eyes. Okay. It has these little kind of horn features as well. Right. It's got a mouth. Okay. And what I'm actually sketching here, what I like to do is I try to find features that'll really push the shape and the form. Okay, that's an important line right there. Alright. What we're going to do is add some texture. Right. I try not to be too meticulous. Personally, I do find beauty in the looseness, so kind of, if you can, or if you prefer, you can just be very loose. Going in there with the darker line and kind of pulling out some crucial shapes here that are gonna help me define my animal. Okay. And the same goes on the back side here. There's some really large bumps. So I'm trying to keep it somewhat light. Sometimes I think when you add a lot of textures, the picture can easily get really heavy. So I'm keeping that in mind. Otherwise, it's kind of fun. Use a little bit of stippling. Go in there, kind of define some of these areas, and we can just kind of let some areas kind of vignette and fade off. Okay. Maybe add some bubbles or two. Okay. So now let's start on this seahorse here. Okay, so continuing on. Okay, so just kind of warming up here. Okay. Trying to make sure that the forms are reading okay, correctly. Okay. I'm keeping it loose, really. Okay. That's it. Now I'm kind of picking and choosing what areas to darken up here. Okay. So alright. Okay. It's kind of my warm-up sketch right there. Alright. And I'm going to do one more seahorse. Okay. I like to see where it'll start and finish. There we go. Now this one's going to be a little bit bigger. Okay. Again, just going in with the major shapes. There we go. Right. Okay. First off, I'm going to kind of identify some of the major parts of this animal. So we got some fins, the gills, okay. And definitely some wrinkles here. Right. These textures are going to make a big difference in your illustration, so don't forget to incorporate them. And again, kind of one of the key components of actually drawing is picking the right picture. So this is kind of a side view, so it's not going to be too extremely difficult to get the form. But it's mainly a study in kind of the silhouette of the animal, okay, and the textures themselves. So as you can see, I'm trying not to be too heavy-handed. Okay, it can easily get very heavy, so just keep it really light. And most importantly, have fun. Okay. The interesting thing is about drawing is you can see when people are having a good time while they're drawing, and it completely shows in the work itself. There's this sense of kind of freedom. So hopefully we can tap into that here today. I think the looser I kind of go, personally, it's just more fun for me. I'm not really worrying so much about, you know, it needs to be perfect or nothing like that. Just really just let go and just enjoy the process of just creating. Trying to get this texture right now. Okay. Just quickly indicating the direction without it being too overbearing. Okay. Again, just keeping it really light and loose, not too heavy-handed. Okay. Trying not to make it too perfect. It's, you know, the imperfections, the actually make it look just so much more fun. Right. Just kind of loosen up the hand there. Just kind of there's all this kind of texture in the back. It really mimics seaweed. Okay. Just going in there and finishing off some of the texture. And once I kind of understand the texture and some of the patterns on this animal, I'm really not even looking at the picture anymore. What I'm doing is I'm just going with my knowledge of what's there, and I'm kind of making up as I go. Okay. Essentially, we want to get to a point where you can just kind of sketch and draw some of these animals out of your memory. Okay. Hatching a lot back here in this area. It's a lot darker on the photo, so it's really just a bunch of texture, and I'm making up some of this information here as I go. Okay. Again, this is not about perfection. It's really just getting the essence of the animal, and so you can kind of just let the pen strokes make some decisions for you. Okay. Very interesting, this animal. It has this seaweed-like kind of tentacles that are stuck to the back. I really want to capture that. Okay. Okay, let's continue this texture. It's going all the way to the back. Alright. Let's continue it on. Okay. Fill out this backside here. Okay. Now here it's just some jumbled texture. Basically I'm filling in that area with a bunch of hash marks. Okay. Going in there and kind of towards the end, what I'll do is I'll reinforce the outline so you can clearly decipher where the edge of the animal ends and where it starts. Okay. Again, let your hand kind of just loosen up and do most of the work for you. These interesting textures. Okay. Okay, around the face, I'm choosing to actually use some more stippling right now, just because I don't want to make it too heavy. I want to have this area kind of breathe right here, so yeah. What I like to have is like a certain darker area, and in certain portions of my drawing just really just kind of lighten up and have the viewer kind of rest their eye. Here we can go a little darker. It's kind of the core of the animal here. Let's go back in. Okay. Kind of want to start to vignette it off here. Okay, with some simple line work. So just going to go back in and reinforce that line work just a little bit. Don't overwork it. Okay. Reinforce this core just a little bit more. I'm thinking that this area is, it's gonna be kind of a catchy, eye-catchy area, so I'm gonna give it some more interest. Alright. Just really kind of reinforce this kind of this pattern here. Add a little bit more hatching so it transitions from dark here to medium to light. Right? I'll zoom in a little bit for you guys so you guys can kind of see. a little bit better view. Okay. Again, trying to keep it pretty light in the front area there. We don't want it to be completely blank. Add some character. Give it a little bit of texture. Define the lips there. Okay. I think I'm kind of liking the results. It's not too bad. Doesn't feel completely just too tight. I do like personally a sense of kind of looseness to my sketching. Okay. Alright. Great. And I think that's pretty close. Let's kind of zoom out. Okay. So we kind of started off here, warming up with two little seahorses, and kind of did a larger one here. Alright. I think it was a little bit more successful. I'm a little happier with this one. Okay. Now, alright. Next, let's see, so a little hermit crab here, alright? Okay. I like to start with like kind of a basic shape or form that's going to kind of help me dictate where the animal is going to be. That's his eyes. Alright, let's put in the larger shapes so we can kind of figure out the gesture. I'm more concerned about the overall shape at this point. Okay, and the angle. Okay, not really about the accuracy, but really just kind of the direction and kind of the essence, the energy that it's exuding. Just observing. Have the central area right here. It's got a little smaller kind of arms here. Okay, these feelers. Alright, again, just trying to observe and really just getting the essence of this. Alright, we'll outline where the shell is so we can define where it starts and stops. Right. I like to kind of go in with sometimes a really thick line. Right. I'm going to break up the monotony of the hatch there. And it looked like it was just a little kind of stagnant, so okay. And at this point, basically, I'm focusing on some of the different shells and sections of the hermit crab. There. And the areas where it kind of parts, I'm going to kind of reinforce that. Okay. Without it getting too heavy. Again, with sketching you can get a little heavy, but just being nice and loose. Will help your drawing out tremendously. Okay, stippling is pretty appropriate at this point, so I'll zoom in. No. Let's define and finish up the legs here. Okay. Now this section, they're legs that are actually kind of tucked away inside, and I don't want them to draw attention, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to push it back by just adding some hatching to it. So what comes forward are these legs in the front. And kind of sometimes you're going to have to pick and choose, okay, what should be in front and what should be in back. And that's kind of one way to go about kind of pushing objects back is you can simplify it, or you can just add some shadow to it and just push it back, okay? And it really kind of depends on the contrast. Okay. Now, since this leg is in front of that leg, but I'm having a hard time reading it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in and really just punch it out. Okay, but with outlining that area with a bold line. Okay, so before I get a little too ahead of myself, just make sure that this area is reading properly. With certain objects, it can easily get a little confusing when there's a lot of shapes kind of coming together. So you got to kind of pick and choose and kind of pull out what part of the drawing that you want the viewer to see. So this area is kind of a classic example. I want all this stuff to kind of be in the background. Okay. I'm having a hard time reading this from this, so I'm going to make a decision to just push this back. Okay. And really just push this back. So that way, it's not going to compete with that arm. But now it really doesn't compete, and actually I think I like that. I like the results of that. Okay, great. Okay, now let's kind of put some more character into the shell. I'm going to use this kind of curvy hatching. All right. Okay. I'm just going to kind of I'm going to zoom a little bit out because I'm going to have to turn my canvas. My hand's starting to get fatigued, but what I'm doing is I'm hatching right now to give the shell a little bit more character. Okay. Okay, I think I'm liking the results there. Still trying to keep it pretty loose, not stiffening up, and keep it moving fast. And here on the top section, I'm not going to go all the way around because you kind of get the idea. I feel like I've added in my characteristic of the shell, but sometimes you don't really need to finish off your texture. What's interesting about the human mind and perception is that it'll kind of finish it off for you. Okay. Going in, and I'm gonna just outline the shell here. Nice. Alright. Zoom out. Okay. I'm going to go to this underside and really just kind of bump that up. Alright. Fill in the shadow here. It's really dark. Right. Okay. Alright, there we go. That's our hermit crab. Alright, let's kind of do a double take. It looks pretty good. And I think we have the essence of the hermit crab. Okay. Alright. So we're going to continue on with our theme of sea creatures. And I'm going to start off here. Okay. And continue on doing actually sea turtle. Alright, so again, the first step is kind of planning out your sketch. I think I'll put my sea turtle about like so. Okay, maybe he'll be on the bottom half here. Okay, I don't want him going off the page. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of figure out where his head is. Okay. The direction of his back. And his shell. Okay. Let's define his fins. Alright. The neck is almost pretty much connected right to the fin on the opposite end there. His hind fin. And this other fin there. You can barely see it. Alright. Okay, so now we kind of have our turtle, our sea turtle, kind of figured out. I'm going to kind of extend the shell on this side. Right. Okay, no big deal. We have his eye. Now, what I'm noticing is that the sea turtle is very symmetrical, so I'm gonna pay extra attention to really keeping that pattern pretty, just right down the center. Okay. Paying extra attention there, making sure that the shapes and the forms kind of read. Making sure that these patterns are nice and even. Okay. I'm really having to focus here so I don't mess that up. And let's finish off the edge of the head here. Okay, looks like there's quite a bit of wrinkles here. Right? I'll zoom in for you guys. Okay, so that's how it kind of looks right now. Okay. We'll add in some hatching for the darkness there. And if you guys feel free to add in your own textures. You know, maybe hatching is not always the way to go. Right. Okay. Some areas have a darker outline and some areas don't. Just kind of letting it organically just kind of come up, just kind of show itself, and just really having fun, really. Right? And again, some areas, you know, leave some negative space, some wider spacing here. Okay. Okay. Now we're gonna kind of, you're able to see some patterns on the arms. And this sea turtle has smaller patterns on the arms. What I'm planning on doing is I'm gonna kind of have it vignette off right here into basically just empty shapes. Okay. I don't want to, sometimes it gets a little too busy with all the dark shapes. Okay, and there's something really nice about just kind of letting that go. You know, it doesn't always have to be fully detailed, right? There's a certain kind of feel, even in this space. It doesn't necessarily always just have to be so intense. Just let it be nice and easy. Okay. All right, it's looking pretty good there. Let's start on this side. Okay. Putting in the patterns. Okay. And basically I'm going to just transition it out into just a vignette. Okay. No, nothing more. Just really keep it light. Right. Now kind of looking at it, I think we can kind of add a little bit more darkness to this area. It's really kind of give more attention to the face. Right. And then what we're gonna do is, the plan is to kind of vignette off the rest of the picture. Okay, so again, since the turtle is symmetrical, I'm paying extra attention into making sure that this pattern is true to its shape. Okay. Let me zoom out here just for a second before we go back in. Again, what we're going to do is we're going to basically kind of do the same thing. We want to keep the focal area and the attention around the head and around the eye, and then along its back we're just going to just loosen up our lines and vignette it out. Okay? Kind of give it a nice artistic touch. kind of have like a great little pattern there. Alright. And now let's go in and let's kind of define the top part of the shell. Okay. Alright. I'm going to make sure that this shell is, the shape is going to be just right. So just take your time on certain portions, because I want to make sure that the shape is really going to read as it kind of curves down the spine there. There we go. Alright. Let's add in the other sections now. Okay. I'm always double checking, making sure that it's looking pretty even, and right now it looks fairly even. Okay. Not really having too many issues with the perspective. Both sides, the patterns are looking symmetrical. Alright. Okay. Great. So let's add a little bit more hatching. Right. Not too much on the back. Let's outline the shell a little bit. Just right here, just in this area. Now a lot of times in dynamic sketching it's really just about making choices. Sometimes I find that when I draw a picture that I feel that is not as successful, it's usually when I kind of go overboard on one part of the picture or the whole thing. But I think as I've done this more and more, I've learned that it's kind of nice to just let certain areas just kind of just vignette off and kind of disappear, and that's kind of the characteristic of the sketch. So again, here towards the back where the feet are, I'm gonna kind of keep it pretty light. Alright. Same thing goes on this side. Keep it very light. Just a little bit of an accent. Okay. I'm going to add in just a little bit of hatching, not too much. Just to give it just a little bit more interest. Just around the edges, not too much. Okay. The idea is I kind of want to create a pseudo glare around the edge there. Even though in the picture there is no glare. I think it'll be nice. Okay. What I'm doing is I'm having my hatching follow kind of the shape of the shell. Okay. I think it'll add a little bit more interest that way without detracting. Okay. Alright. So let's go back to the front. Let's add a little bit more darkness, kind of more contrast to the front, so we can kind of lead the eye to that area. Okay. Right. That's pretty good right there. Right. I think it's kind of needing a circular kind of background. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this piece of tape, use it as my circle guide, and anything circular will do. You guys have around the house, right? Okay. Fantastic. All right. Okay. Maybe some bubbles, rippling. Okay. Great. Alright, so that concludes it for our dynamic sketching demo. Okay, let's go a little bit in closer. Just want you guys to kind of see some of the detail there. Alright, we kind of vignette it out. And again, keeping it really loose and focusing on the areas that are important to us. Okay. Alright, that was our last sketch. Okay. And then kind of sketch this little hermit crab right there. That was fun. And again on this, I think I believe that kind of the main lesson here was if you have a lot of arms and things that are going to confuse the viewer, what you can do is you can kind of push it back by hatching and separating certain arms. So this arm is in front and that's in front of that, and these arms really can just be in the back, so I pushed it back with this hatching, right, keeping it really loose. Okay. And on our seahorse, okay, it was all about texture and basically created a nice focal area that's going to just go right up to the head. Okay, I'm even, as I look back on it right now, thinking it might be really nice to just draw all that attention in right up into the eye. Right. Just having fun. There we go. You can see some of the pen strokes there. Right. As you can see, it's really loose, right? We're just indicating, right, the form. Right. But our pen strokes are very loose. Okay? Great, fantastic. That concludes our session for our organic forms for dynamic sketching. My name is Daniel Park, and hope to see you guys soon. Alright, bye-bye.